suppose a calculus student is randomly selected to accompany my teacher to a conference. What is the probability that that student is a junior? So we're being asked to find what's the probability that they're 11th grade, given that they take calculus. Well, that's it. And they want the answer as a fraction, then that's fine, we can do that. It's more common that they want a proportion as a decimal, but that's not neither here nor here. Right, so we've got the 11th grade, which is the juniors, and the 12th grades, which are the seniors, and 50-50. So the first branch is 0.5, 0.5. Now, of the juniors, 80% take calculus, which means the other 20% don't take calculus. So NC means no calculus. Whereas if you're a senior, 70% took calculus, so that makes this guy 30%. Oops, sorry, just kicked my dog there. Okay, so I'm going to put it over here. There's a probability formula that we can use here. And it basically says that it's called Bayes' theorem. If you want to find its name and look it up, it's called Bayes' theorem. And what this says is, if you want to find the probability of some event A, given that you know B has happened, right? It's equal to the probability of B given A, so you kind of switch places, multiplied by the probability of event A, and then it's all going to be divided by the probability of event B. And Bayes' theorem has a number of different versions of it, but this is the one I'm going to use. Okay. Okay. So in my story, A is going to be the 11th grade, and B is going to just represent calculus students. Okay. So the probability of B given A basically switches places. So it's going to be the probability that you do calculus given that you were in the 11th grade, multiplied by the probability that you're in the 11th grade, and then the whole thing gets divided by the probability of you taking calculus. Now, all these probabilities will come from this tree that I've created up here. We just have to know where to look, okay? Now, when you do a probability tree like this, you should find the last 4 answers, right? The probabilities of these 4 events at the end. And you get that by multiplying the pathway together. So for instance, this times this gets me 0.4. This times this gets me 0.1. This times this gets me 0.35. And finally, this times this gets me 0.15. Are you comfortable about the way I've created this probability tree?
Yes, and all that equals 1 if you check it.
Yeah, right? And all of this equals 1. Right. So now let's find the pieces of the puzzle. The probability that you take calculus given your 11th grade is that number there, 0.8. You know it's 11th grade, so all you're doing is finding out what proportion, what's the probability of calculus. So this guy here is 0.8. I know it's still a decimal, but I'll turn it into a fraction later. Multiplied by, now what's the probability that you're in 11th grade? Well, you start here, and 11th grade is this guy. Now, the tricky one is what's the probability that you choose a student and he takes calculus? Well, when I look at this tree, that guy up there is a calculus student, and this one here is also a calculus student. So the probability you take calculus is this 0.4 added with this 0.35, and that gets me the 0.75. So far, so good?
Yep.
Right, now I'm going to multiply that together, still as a decimal, and then I'm going to show you a little trick where you can get the calculator to turn your final answer into a fraction. Because very often if you use them as fractions too early, it just gets really, really ugly. Can you imagine it would be 8/10 times 5/10?
Right.
All, yeah, and 75, and you'd have zeros everywhere and you'd lose one of them. And you'd probably put a bracket in the wrong place as well. So I'm going to avoid that totally by just going 0.8 times 0.5, and then I'm going to divide by 0.75. And the answer I get is a really ugly 0.533 forever. That one might, I may have to not use my shortcut. If this had been a decimal like 0.512, the calculator would have turned into a fraction really easily. But I'm going to go for it anyway. You hit the math button, and you see option 1, fraction.
Mm-hmm.
That takes any decimal and turns it into a fraction. Let's keep your fingers crossed, go for it. Answer becomes fraction. Hit enter. Oh. Well done. It handled it.
I need to get that calculator. That's my problem.